What's going on, team? Welcome to an episode of the Keep Going Podcast, Season 2. This is your co-host, Luke Wheat, coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Before the show starts, make sure to follow us on our socials, okay? Twitter, the Keep Going Pod, Insta, the KG Podcast, and YouTube at the KG Pod. Just a reminder that we are not psychiatrists and not psychologists, just a couple ex-athletes trying to make a difference and end the stigma of mental health. Thank you guys for listening, and let's get to the show.
That keep going moment.
My keep going moment.
That's my keep going moment.
Let's keep going. Welcome, team, to episode 45 of the Keep Going Podcast, Athletes Shining a Light on Mental Health. This is your co-host, Luke Wheat, coming out of Asheville, North Carolina this morning. I'm joined by a couple people here. We got Pat O'Malley, we got Jackie Tripp, and we've got Lexi Cox. Pat O'Malley, where are we coming out of, man?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually at my house. Like I didn't want to even be here. I tried to go somewhere else, but like no one wants to hang out. So I'm on my bike by myself, having a great time. Jackie, where are you at?
That makes sense why you're swaying back and forth. I was like, he's either really excited or.
I mean, I'm really excited too, but like that's the least of the point. But go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm in Plymouth too. I'm actually home too, which is rare that Luke, Pat, and I are all in our homes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not.
never
I'm not.
happened.
So we're 2 out of 3 today. We're 2 out of
Oh,
3
you're
today.
not. Okay, I was wrong.
All right, Lexi. Out of
I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh, baby.
Love it. Well, we appreciate you jumping on. Something goofy that we do every episode is we talk about what number the episode is. So it's 45 for us. And I know Jackie's got a good one, so I'm going to kick it to her.
I got 2. We got Pedro Martinez for all my Boston people, and then kind of an outside the box number though would be MJ 45 for anybody that remembers
MJ
that
45.
era of his life.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that whenever he's at the Sox?
Yeah, and then I think he played a few games on the Bulls as 45.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. How about you, Luke?
No, that's the one I'm rocking with. I'll kind of tell that one story that I was referencing in the group chat. Maybe not this episode. I'm kind of saving that for another one, I think.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm gonna rep the 45 too. Love Pedro, love MJ, big Jordan guy being out of Chicago. Lexi, I'm not gonna expect you to know another 45, but if you do, shout it out.
No, I was thinking MJ too.
That's it.
Okay,
Hey,
okay.
we're all in the same wavelength. It's gonna make for a good episode. But another thing that we do every episode, and I want to go into it right now with you, Lexi, is something you did this week for your mental health. So I'll have you start, which might be the first time I've ever had a guest start, and then we'll go. So pressure's on. What do you got?
I've actually been trying to stay off my phone in the mornings. Like I find myself always like first thing I do when I wake up is like I immediately grab for my phone. So I've been trying to like limit that and have actually made my mornings a lot better. Like I feel like I wake up a lot more energized than when I spend a few minutes on social media and everything. So it's just something small, but yeah.
I think that's huge. Luke, I know you've been trying to deal with that too. Chime in.
Oh my gosh, putting the phone down is so difficult for me. It gets its hooks in me and just kind of keeps me on whatever app I'm on, whatever I'm scrolling. Me and Pat, that's probably one of the biggest dialogues me and Pat have because he's my saving grace. He runs the Instagram and the Twitter and basically everything else, and just like him being able to keep me off of that and so I don't have to focus on it for the podcast is huge. And for me, it's massive to have him as an accountability partner kind of in that. And I don't know about you, Lexi, but I get that screen time at the end of the week. And whenever it pops up and it says up for the week, I feel a little disappointed in myself. So, I try and stay off of it as well, for sure.
Yeah, I think, Luke, that's a great point. And I shouldn't say unfortunately, but I got to be the guy running the socials. And I'm not the guy. I think that phone time can be very tough. I know for our listeners that maybe are running a business or have to be on their phone for class, I think app limits are super important. And having that accountability partner to be like, dude, stop sending me Instagram videos. It's like 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like, get off Instagram today. So I think app limits have been super helpful for me. And I know you said that's a small thing. People battle the phone thing every morning. I know I used to jump on. First thing I do is check my bank account every day or my stocks. I'd be like, this is the most unhealthy thing of all time. All right, so that's all I had to say. Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that. I started doing the phone thing. I'm trying to do it more at night because I notice if I use my phone more at night, I have a harder time falling asleep. But this week for my mental health, I started reading this book.
Yes.
Love
yes.
it.
It's
Love
really
it.
good. These guys have 2 documentaries on Netflix too that we can share too, but it's just about having more meaningful things in your life, like less material items and more purposeful relationships and passion. So it's really good if anybody's looking for a book to read.
No, love that, Jackie. You saw it all over socials. I actually had 2 people reach out about our co-host reading that book. So, like, shout out to you. Like, that's fantastic.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's really good so far.
Oh, love it. Luke, your way.
Yeah, mental health for me this week is more on the financial side of things. So I made sure to nail down a budget this week. One thing that was causing a lot of stress for me was finances and trying to figure out, how to pay stuff down, how to pay stuff off, and just kind of be a little bit more cautious about how I use my money and different things like that. So for me this week, it was just I half-assed it last December and like made one, but never really stuck to it. So it, looked at it, and then gonna stick to it this month. So excited for it.
No, love that, man. Stay with it. Definitely keep us posted. It's a big step, and not only your day to day, but future stuff as well coming down the pipeline. So great stuff.
For sure.
I think for me this week was just more volunteering. For friends of the pod, obviously my girlfriend is back at school, so I have a little bit more time on my hands. So what I've been doing is just doing a lot of volunteering. I did a corporate cup for Lurie's Children's Hospital on Thursday, stayed in Chicago Friday, did a Cubs charity 5K yesterday, and then some things coming up on the calendar in October as well. So I think giving back my time, I'm trying to be a servant leader and trying to get out there and make an impact. Is something I'm trying to do. So that's been good for my mental health, to say the least. So,
love it, man. Absolutely love it.
Cool. Well, Lexi, I'm going to go with this next. I want to get you kind of featured here. So with you, this is an awesome one because very rare on our pod where we have someone that we all haven't met. So I have to ask, how did you find out about the pod? That's the first thing. And 2, how did you feel like you were a good fit for today's episode?
Well, I followed The Hidden Opponent. I started getting into that because the school that I was at my freshman year had a chapter. And so I was starting to keep up with Hidden Opponent. Plus, I used to play volleyball. And so Victoria Garrick is like one of my favorite players. Yeah.
That's
nice.
And so after I had followed a few of the Hidden Opponent stuff, the account for KG had actually followed me. And so I looked at y'all and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I like what they're doing a lot. So.
No, cool.
Amazing.
And then
Amazing.
For the episode today, why do you think you were a good fit to come on here?
Well, my college experience and everything has been super, super interesting. I would never have imagined senior year being at the University of Arkansas eventually. So I was like, you know what? I feel like it's not talked about enough how different your journey can be, graduating high school and then you look at where you are junior or senior year and you're like, how the heck did I end up here? So kind of just spreading awareness that it's okay to not really know or be super confident right out of high school, thinking where you're going to end up your junior or senior year.
We're already
100%.
going. Already going. Luke, what do you got?
No, 100%. I'm wondering, on the track and field kind of perspective of things. Like it talks about in other sports, speed changes, right? Like you get to the next level of soccer, you get to the next level of football, the game's faster. Well, clearly in track and field, it's faster. Like that's the whole point of the sport, right? So how did you deal with that coming into college? Did that kind of affect your mental health? Did that affect your performance? What was that first year like, and moving on into second year like?
Well, freshman year, I went to a still a Division I, but it was smaller in the WCC. And I went to high school in Texas. So If you know anything about like high school track and field, Texas is pretty much, the best in the country for that. We have so many amazing people and just incredibly fast people that blessed enough to run against in high school. So mentally I wasn't too shocked to go against, the whole lineup being super fast people. So I think that helped me a lot. But I know a lot of my teammates from different states, not California, Florida, Texas, the big three really it was hard for them because especially in an area where it's not very a dominant sport, it can be hard to go from being, one of the best or top in the state for your level, and then you get to college and it's eight of you pretty much on the starting
Yeah.
line. So it can be a little bit of an adjustment to realize, oh, I'm not just naturally one of the better people. It's hundreds of me that are at this level now. So I know that can be very hard to adjust to at first for a lot of people.
For sure, for sure. And I
100%.
think it's realizing, wow, I've achieved my goal. I'm competing at the Division 1 level, but it's not doesn't suffice just to be there and be there. You want to compete. You want to help your team win. You want to have a great experience, and for you to kind of bounce around, which we'll go into. Jackie, anything to add on that?
No, I like that you touched on, because we touched on this in my episode and in Adam's episode. Adam is Pat's brother, but just about the journey and how you don't know where you're going to end up. So I'm very excited to hear more about your story as to how you graduated high school and where you are now. But we'll dive into that.
For sure. And it's funny with Jackie, like with her basketball journey, and my brother, he transferred 4 different times, like just because of injuries and household stuff. So I've been there. And I know it plays a huge role, not only on you, but in the family as well. So talk about it from a mental health standpoint, because you're at Pepperdine, correct? That's where you were before?
Yes. So my first semester I started at Pepperdine. That's where I was right out of high school. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So tell me about that transition, if you don't mind going into it, because it's a hot button thing for our athletes. We have athletes, one, trying to compete at the D1 level, but two, should I transfer? Should I not? So walk us through kind of how that all went.
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from Southern California, but I moved to Texas when I was around like 5 or 6. So grew up in Texas. I'm full-hearted, I just always say, I'm from Texas, I'm from Texas. But all my family is from Southern California. So thankfully the transition of going to school down there wasn't too bad. I was fortunate enough to, I went and, for holidays and everything. So transitioning to that area wasn't super tough for me, but I think being so far away from what I knew growing up was
Yeah.
different. You know, Texas and Southern California are very different. And so um being accustomed to the South, and then I don't think this is really talked about enough, but I actually had a teammate from Florida who I was able to talk about with this too. The weather, running, it's obviously, something that is a sport dependent on, what you're accustomed to. And so I think adjusting to that, we were obviously, fast and everything, but being like, dang, like, why are we tired? This drive, like, is it us? Like, are we just like totally different people now? But um I enjoyed Pepperdine. It obviously a beautiful campus. I think it's funny because whenever someone doesn't know, I'm like, have you ever seen Zoe 101? And so
Oh,
Oh
shout
yeah, yeah,
out
yeah.
yeah.
Zoe 101. Stop the
I
whole
didn't even
time.
realize that was on Pepperdine.
I was
Yeah.
waiting for her to mention
Realize
that.
that.
I'm like, we've got to throw that in there.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Zoe
that brought
101.
back too many memories.
Yes. Yeah.
Fucking go ahead.
Yeah. It's always fun to throw that in there, and then you just get the, oh, like I know what that is, all that stuff. But yeah, I first semester was super interesting for me. It was it was different for me to get accustomed to the lifestyle there again. It was something that I didn't think that much about because I was like, oh, I'm from there, it'll be fine. But then I get there and it's not something that I thought that I was ready for. I enjoyed the program, but I didn't really find my people there. I felt very I had one or two, really, really close people that I felt that I could count on, but it was the issue of feeling very alone. I wasn't lonely, but I felt very alone, which I had never really differentiated before. I always kind of thought that they meant the exact same thing. But I think that first semester was when I realized that being lonely and being alone are very two different things. And so for
Wow.
me, it was realizing that, this is affecting my performance. And I did get injured my first semester. I strained my groin my first semester, which, for running, it's kind of, especially I was doing hurdles that's what I got recruited for out of high school was the hurdles and 100 and 200. And so that was kind of tough for me to go from, already feeling a little bit down and then getting injured and having to just sit there and watch practice with already a small program. That was super tough. And so talked with my mom a lot. I was on the phone with her. I can remember multiple times a day, every single day, just being like, I don't know, I'm just not happy. And so finally it was like I said the word already. I was like a few weeks in and I was like, should I start thinking about transferring? Like I was like, I never imagined, I had older friends that were athletes that had transferred and I was like, oh, that's not gonna be me. Like I'm set. I'm just gonna stay here. It's gonna be fine. But I was like, should I transfer? And I don't know why it felt like such a heavy word to say, but
Yeah.
so I entered the portal and it was kind of funny how it all worked out. It ended up being that the coach that had recruited me, unfortunately had, you know, passed away at the end of the semester. And I remember that I had already decided to transfer, and I get a call from one of my old teammates, and she tells me like, "Hey, before, they post this, I want to let you know that coach so and so has passed away." And I was like, "What?" Like this is like so crazy to me. And later found out that they decided for the remainder of the year not to have a designated coach, for that event. And I felt so incredibly sad for my former teammates because, one, having to deal with such a heavy loss as a freshman and a lot of the girls being so far away from home was making me feel so sad for them. But then also, I was like, wow, maybe I felt in my heart to leave for a reason, because now unfortunately they're having to guide themselves in their events. And so it was really weird and kind of an eerie feeling once I left, because I was like, should I have stayed? Should I make the right decision leaving? But so many things kind of happened after that where I was like, okay, everything happens for a reason. I felt the need to leave for a reason. And so um, I transferred to a smaller school kind of down the road through the canyon type thing, just to kind of rebuild myself and figure out what I wanted to do. And so that's my first semester, at least in a
Yeah.
nutshell, which
Yeah,
it's
but and before you go
crazy.
on, I want to touch on that transfer part a little bit. I think the reason it's such a heavy word right now, there's a little bit of a stigma, comes from that. I think the football aspect, right? Guys transferring to try and get that starting spot and then trying to get to the NFL when, that they're trying to make a paycheck through football and through a sport. I think for 99% of the athletes out there, for 99.9% of the athletes out there, that's not what transferring is about, right? So we get this big stigma around it just because of what's reported on all the time. Um, I think you transferred the right way. I think you did what was best for yourself, and I think that's the most important part. So for our athletes out there that are listening, and you're wondering, you know, man, I'm not happy here. I'm not making friends. The coaches are fine. They're not degrading me. They're not whatever, but I'm not just really jiving with this program. you've got to go to a school where you get, a couple things. Get a great academic experience that sets you up for the real world, and you've got to get a great athletic experience with people that you like to be around, because you're going to be around them all the time. It's a full time job, especially at the D1 level, right? So I think you transfer for the right reasons. I think you don't have to worry about that at all. I think you made the right choice. Pat, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic points. I just to unlayer that a little bit, you talk about the difference between being lonely and alone. And I've never heard it described like that, which I thought was fantastic. I'm
Yeah,
still trying to take that apart in my head. That was very powerful. And then, you're supporting cast, right? And your mom and these people, when you had these struggles, you didn't just sit there and let it eat you alive. I think that's also very powerful that you let yourself be vulnerable. You let yourself be picked up by your people. And I think that's an amazing message for our listeners. So thank you for sharing that. Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the fact that you made it a point to mention that you were always in contact with your mom and talking to somebody. I think that's such of importance, because I think that I know people that all of a sudden transfer and they just post it and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that you didn't like your school, that you were thinking of transferring. So did you ever have a hard time where you didn't know how to talk about it? And if so, what made you be able to talk about it with your mom? Like, what makes you so open and vulnerable about your feelings?
Well, I think that it helps that I've always kind of had like an open relationship with my mom. My dad has a job to where he's gone for weeks at a time. And so in high school, and especially senior year when the recruiting process was starting for me, it was really just, like me and my mom going on the visits and everything. And so I think it was kind of a no-brainer for me to be able to talk to her, which I'm very lucky that I had that mindset and that outlet, because I know that it's not the same for a lot of people. Um, and so I think that it was easy for me to talk to her about it. But I think what was really difficult was telling my teammates. And, I was terrified to talk to my coach and ask if, it was even, like, I almost felt like I had to ask for permission in a way, which is crazy to me, because now looking back and knowing how many people do transfer out and everything, and how, some coaches are not supportive of it. I know of a lot of people whose coaches were or have been, upset and have reacted in different ways. But thankfully my coach was extremely supportive and understanding. And but I think, yeah, the hardest thing was definitely, it's almost like getting the guts to go and start that initial
yeah,
conversation. And, then your teammates find out, and it's like, well, the thought of, I don't want them to think that it's them, or that it's anything that they're doing. And I don't want them to think of me differently, because I was living with all of my teammates for freshman year in the dorm. And so I was like, I don't want this to affect, any the living situation or our friendships. And I'm still in contact with a lot of them today, which I'm very thankful for. But yeah, I think it's, for me, it wasn't as much talk to my family, it was talk to my family at school that I had, my team.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that opportunity, when you get to that high of a level, that's earned. It's earned. You've already put in the work to get there. Now it's about being somewhere, like Luke said, working with athletes all the time, where it feels like home, where it checks off the boxes for you. And it's not selfish to know what you're worth and what you've earned in this game and in competition. So that's a great point. All right. So I want to stay on that. That's a great little tangent we just went on. I love the information being shared, but get me to like now. So now you are a senior, correct?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior. So you have the COVID year still?
Um, I did not get a COVID year.
So
No.
you missed the COVID year by 1 year.
Yes.
Okay. So you're a true junior. You didn't get the COVID year. That's kind of what was in my head. Okay. Got it. So walk me through what's going on now, obviously, at Arkansas, how the experience has been, and how good it's been for your mental health. That's what I'm hoping to hear.
Yeah. So, I trained my entire sophomore year back home in Houston, kind of independently, running unattached at, local things. I did a meet in Dallas in June. But so I initially out of high school was recruited for just sprints and just hurdles. But I was fortunately connected with a coach in Houston who was involved in the decathlon. And that's what he coaches is decathlon and heptathlon. And after I had connected with him, this was in actually just February of this year. I met with him and he was like, "You are a multi. You are not a sprinter. You're not like you are a multi." And I had never really even thought of doing that. And I was like, seeing the multis, everyone knows Anna Hall. She is like so amazing. And I just automatically thought of her and I was like, I'm nothing like her. Like, what do you mean I'm not a multi? Like, that's crazy. I could never even imagine myself doing that. But started training and actually improved in the events that I've never done before, at a rate where I was like so almost surprising myself and started to get a little bit of imposter syndrome, which I'd never actually experienced before because I'd always just been used to smaller environments and smaller level schools. So I was for to get attention from an SEC school, I was like, there's no way. Like I was like so dealing with the idea of not me, like that's not no way. And so he was like, no, like this is something that you can really run with. And so I remember I had actually met the Arkansas coach for my event at the SEC conference at LSU this past year. I think it was early yeah, it was early May that was. And obviously I just went to spectate and because I love watching track when I'm not participating in it. And I was watching, the heptathlon for the women and started talking to someone next to me and then talking about my marks and how I've, improved this much in only like 3 months. And I remember I see it's like happens in slow-mo to me now, but it was the coach here and he turns and I see the Arkansas logo and he's like, well, do you want to come on a visit to Arkansas? And I was like, what? Like it was almost this like this slow-mo type of moment. And so I went on my visit in June, committed on my visit and moved here in August. So it was kind of like a very short time span of getting me here. So that was super exciting, but also kind of like, whoa, like there's still, I'm kind of like, wow, this is actually happening to me kind of moment. But
And I think there's a lot of setback early on for some major opportunities now. And I think if you would have just been like, you know what, I'm too good for this small school transfer. I've been Division 1. I've done all this stuff. I competed where Zoe 101 was like maybe your story would have been different. So like in all seriousness, to be able to, I always use this expression, put your nose to the grindstone and really grind this out to get where you're at now. You got to be hella proud of that. Luke, what do you got?
No, absolutely. And I think taking on the challenge, like, are you doing the heptathlon now? Is that kind of your event now,
yes,
or what's the two events you're
yes.
doing? Or
So my training plan is formatted around the multis.
yeah, but I think that's absolutely incredible. That's no small feat to take on, junior year coming in. Um, but I love also that you're able to do that and take on the challenge and just come into a new team and say, hey, I'm here to do this. I'm willing to learn from the coaches and willing to put that foot forward and help the team succeed as well. So I absolutely love that. So
Nope.
kind of moving on, triathlon and from kind of different sporting events. What's the team vibe like down there? You having really good relationships with the girls? How's the mental health doing right now currently?
So because I transferred so late, I'm still, going through the compliance process. So I've been training sort of formatted by myself, because of all the rules and regulations and everything. But I've been to a few events when school started where I got to meet a lot of the girls and just amazing and genuine people. And I was able to meet and talk with a few of the because obviously we have a lot of pros that use our facilities and live in Fayetteville and come and train. And I was able to talk with a few of them yesterday. They actually came into where I work and I introduced myself, and just genuine people. And I was like just so excited because I was like, wow, like they're so genuinely nice and exciting, and just great conversations that I've had with everyone that I've met so far.
Well, I love the fact that you may have found your place here, right? That you feel comfortable, you feel at home, and that you got some great people around you. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I think the point I want to touch on, and then obviously we're 30 in, I want to be conscious of your time. The academic side, what are you looking to do career wise to go with this awesome career in track and field?
So my plan is I have my major is nutrition and dietetics, so I'm
Yeah,
studying that right now. And after graduation, I'm looking to do an accelerated BSN program. So
yeah,
hope to add on to that and get my bachelor's as well in nursing. And then eventually after that, I'll want to go to CRNA school. To the ultimate goal is CRNA, which is anesthesiologist assistant. So
Okay.
that's my ultimate end
Hey,
goal.
little
Yeah,
by little, right?
it's a
One step
process.
at a time.
Yeah, it's a process to get to that title, but it's what I want to do, so it'll be worth it.
no surprise there that all of those degrees and certificates are all helping people. Like I'm not surprised by that by any means. Just kind of who you are and the brand that you put out there. That's fantastic, and I'm definitely going to keep in tabs because I think that's a fantastic opportunity for not only to be a D1 athlete, but to be able to help people for years to come. So that's awesome stuff there. Luke, I do want to ask her the question if you don't mind. If you've listened to any of our episodes in the past, we really dig into some stuff via our keep going moment. It's kind of our niche here. So I got to ask you what your keep going moment is. A moment that you were kind of like down the dumps in a dark spot and you got through it to keep going. Go ahead.
So mine was probably after the end of my freshman year. I came home, and after finally being able to be home for a consecutive amount of time, I remember one day I just like broke down and lost it, and I was like, I don't think that I belong anywhere right now. I don't feel like I'm tied to really go into any given direction. And that's kind of when I decided that I know I'm supposed to be somewhere, but I don't know where that is yet. And so I think that was the moment where I decided to take the risk of staying home and training, somewhere where I'm comfortable. But I think that that's what actually made the biggest difference at the end, at least, because being somewhere where you are comfortable and trying to rebuild is something that I found that was the most helpful. And I eventually saw a quote where it said, "You can't heal in the same place that broke you." And that's what was really like, I think the biggest thing that I took with me that whole entire year is I was kept telling myself, you did the right thing because you're not where you started, and you're not where you're going to finish. You're in that rebuilding phase, which is what I honestly had to tell myself probably 5 times a day, because
Yeah.
there were a lot of times where I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I putting myself through this? I should have just stayed, all these things, but it was worth it in the end. But I think that rebuilding phase really was that entire time was where I was just telling myself, keep going. Like you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, that keep
Wow.
going. Luke, what do you got?
Man, the I love the quotes you just said, right? You can't oh my gosh, say it again for me. Hit it again, Lexi.
You can't heal in the same place that broke you.
That's just amazing. And kind of the way I want to piggyback off of this, I want you to talk about the people that have supported you. I know you touched on your mom a little bit. Who else has supported you along the way, and who's kept you going over these last couple years?
Yeah, so my both of my parents definitely. My mom has been such I've thankfully she's growing up she was a stay-at-home mom, and so she's kind of always been, a big person on my back for me. But I also have a little sister. She's a freshman at Alabama, and oh my gosh, we are like barely 2 years apart, and we get mistaken names all the time. And so she's like literally my little best friend, and we call all the time, all day, and she was definitely helping me through everything. We would anytime I was like struggling or anything, it was okay, let's go. Like let's go for a drive. We're going somewhere. Or let's get out of the house. Let's go do something and talk. So I think having someone, like a best friend, was well, she is, but I'm saying, like someone so close I was able to
Yeah.
be, but she's definitely also like probably one of the biggest people supporting me for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
this is extremely powerful. I've said powerful 19 times. And the journey aspect here and being able to heal and replant and bloom again and again and again, and then understanding that it takes other people. I always talk about the sunlight and the rain for plants, right? Like you need other factors, you need other positive things going on in your life via your friends, your family members, your teammates, your coaches. They're all a big part of your world. And the fact that you're kind of taking bits and pieces of everybody you've known and making it your own, I think is strong. So that's awesome stuff. Well, I do want to do this. I will get you out of here, Lexi. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to jump on with us. And the fact that you found us organically like makes my heart happy because I don't know if you've listened to our beginning episodes, but like we didn't think anyone would ever listen to this. And the fact that
Yeah.
you found us through THO and like Victoria and everybody involved, like, oh, that makes my heart happy. But what I'm getting at is I want to give you your flowers moment. Talk about something that you wanted to talk about that we haven't got to yet, and I'll get you out of here for today.
Ooh, it's probably just I don't know. I feel like when I was going through the transfer process and everything, I think it was kind of an issue for me to really find, an outlet of who can I find that's been through this situation, or who can I find that I'm able to talk to and that, you know, has similar experiences. And so I think it's important for, every athlete and, college athlete to know just that there's always outlets, and whether you think it or not, the person next to you in practice is probably going through something similar or something bigger or something smaller, but going through something. And I always see, quotes about whether it be like in the gym or on the field or just walking past someone on campus. I just have been really into lately, and I've been reading like a few books on it as well, just being kind to everyone and how far like kindness can really go. And my mom's, always taught me that as well, but I think relaying just kindness in sport and I don't know, just overall positivity, and I think something like this is awesome for athletes to have, like a smaller thing that we can all hop on and listen to and, talk to, because especially once you get into bigger programs, it can be hard to feel the urge to speak out about something. And so I don't know. I just have a lot of
Absolutely.
thoughts
I,
on that kind of stuff.
absolutely.
That,
I
that
see that. I think I see it now as a coach too. The part you touched on about, your teammates always going through something. So just try and lead with kindness, right? I think I see it now as a coach. You know, most people don't hide emotions as well as they think they hide emotions, right? And so seeing my players whenever they're struggling with something, you don't want to touch them right during a drill or touch on them and kind of ask them right during a drill or whatever, but just making a point to go out to people, maybe after practice or in between some sets or something if you got 5 or 10 minutes of downtime and just checking in on them. I think that's one thing that I've tried to do this year as well. So I love that point.
Yeah, yeah. I know we didn't, touch on it a lot, but that second semester for me, it was the first time that I had experienced, a coach that was not what I was used to. And, there was um unfortunately, experience with some mental and physical pushback on the women's side that we had to file, a bunch of stuff on, which the first time in my life was when I experienced that. And that also created a lot of mental struggle for me. But the one thing that kept all of us strong was each other. And so I think that being able to have your group is so important in that, even if it's somewhere new or somewhere you've been for all 4 years. I think remaining strong with your teammates can really help you.
Yeah, I,
Absolutely.
I think in times, and this is a fantastic point. I'm glad you touched on that. I think in times of chaos, there's a lot of strength in numbers. I tell my athletes all the time that if you have a goal in mind and you want to get to where you're trying to get to, grab a couple people and send it with you. Like, I think that's the big thing. Being with like minded people that have those same goals and aspirations. We might not cross the finish line at the same time, but we're all going to get there. I think there's a lot of beauty in that too. So I'm glad you mentioned that because in times of hardship, like a lot of athletes deal with, let's not isolate. Let's not go into a situation where it gets really dark. And then that's when bad things happen. Let's open up about things. Let's talk to people and really try to gather as a group and, beat whatever's in front of you. Because there's a lot of power in that too.
Absolutely. Hey, Lexi, we really appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday. We really hope the season goes well. What's kind of the season timeline look like for y'all? Are you about to compete in some events after you get your compliance stuff done, or is that more coming in the springtime?
It's mainly springtime for just the track side. Obviously, cross country is going on right now, but no indoor season schedule officially out yet, but probably starting in late December, early January for indoor.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, Lexi, we'll be following you. I guess a couple things to wrap up. If you guys do any gear packages to support your program, let us know. We always like supporting who's been on here. That's first and foremost. Second thing, shout out your social media so we can all follow you. We're a pretty tight knit team, is what Luke calls us all the time. So, what are your social media handles so our listeners know?
So my Instagram is two L's for Lexi and then Cox with two X's on the end. So it's my name, but two
Okay. Two
L's.
L's, two X's.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, Lexi, I appreciate you. Have a great day with your new pup, too. That's amazing. I love that. And I love you. I appreciate you jumping on and being so transparent and open with us. So thank you.
Oh, thank you
Thank you,
guys.
Lexi.
This was awesome.
Above all else, guys, keep going. Appreciate the time.